Thank you for joining me. If you're new here, I'm Cynthia Greer, spiritualist who works at the in-depth level of the soul. I also am the author of 5 published books. All of that information is below in the description box. I dig deep to the in-depth level of the soul to get to the root cause of what is blocking you from completely overcoming that shadow side of yourself, integrating it to a higher level where you have learned from every choice that you have made, which many times may not have been a wise one, and transmute that energy into one of love and understanding so that you can attain a higher level of consciousness that is going to connect you fully to the divine source in a way in which you come out of all fear and all doubt, and you develop true faith about your life path and the role that the Creator plays as you have been so greatly blessed with abundancy and gifts that you may not have discovered, so you haven't been able to develop them. So my goal is to get you to do that. If you haven't subscribed yet and you regularly watch my videos, or you are finding this is helpful, please do so. Also press the like and share buttons as well. So we're going to dive into the goddess Medusa, who is actually an archetype. And if you are seriously on the path of soul evolution, at some point you have probably delved into the tarot, which gives you a lot of information about archetypes and the role that they play in your spiritual development as you are on your path, and that we encounter them throughout our lives, and many times we will take on the role of them as well. So if you looked at fairy tales, there is always the wicked stepmother or the wicked queen and the beautiful princess that has been suppressed, and her family inheritance has been stripped away from her, and she's been forced to become a slave to the step-family members, or possibly go into hiding out of fear for her life. Well, there are many hidden messages in these myths, and some actually are legends, because I believe that the majority of authors get their information from things that have actually happened. I know I am. Everything that I have written about has indeed happened. And this includes my encounter with the Greek goddess Medusa, which happened when I was in my 20s, learning about archetypes and the role that they played in my life. And in my book, Twin Flames Beyond the Veil of Illusion, I wrote about my brief encounter with her and what it gave me at a soul level so that I could begin to integrate some very serious shadow aspects of myself. Now, Medusa, as you can see by my thumbnail, has the serpents on her head, and she has a reptilian look about her. But she didn't start out that way. Most depictions of this goddess are very negative in the storylines that have her in them. And there are reasons for this, because the storylines in many cases were not written with a full understanding that nothing is ever black and white, that there are two sides to every coin, and that when we are looking at a goddess or god archetype, there are many different ways that it can play out. Because if you understand dream interpretation or symbology, you will realize they have different meanings according to the level of consciousness the individual that is the querent to a reader seeking guidance, and the reader may see a symbol, or if an individual is on their path and they are becoming clairvoyant, they are shown symbols that they don't often understand, which requires them to begin their research on. So, the story with Medusa starts out in one version that Poseidon was captivated with her beauty, her sensuality, and he had to have her. But she was serving Athena, the goddess of war, and she was a very devout priestess. And that didn't matter to Poseidon. He walked into the temple and he raped her. And Athena retaliated by turning Medusa into a gorgon. The other legend is that Medusa willingly chose to be with Poseidon and was so overcome with lust that she had to have that encounter right then and there on the steps of the temple, which infuriated Athena, and she gave her the curse of becoming a Gorgon, so no other man would ever desire her again. So if we look closely at how everything plays out in both versions of this myth or legend, we can see a bit of ourselves in Medusa. And in my book, Twin Flames Beyond the Veil of Illusion, I write about the encounter I had with her when I was in my 20s. And I was very troubled and really expressing my shadow side to the point that it was really overcoming my thoughts, and I was becoming very obsessive over what I wanted, and it made me very ugly because I felt like I was the victim because I wasn't getting what I wanted. The other aspect of this is that many women, when they don't get what they want, will go into complete rage, and they will instill fear into others and wield power through that fear over others, which causes them to become hardened towards them, to basically turn to stone, to where there is not going to be any give or take because the judgment is there already through the behavior the woman has displayed, that she is dangerous to be around. Maybe she is looked at as a covert narcissist or a backstabber or somebody who is very greedy. And those that she has angered basically want to see her brought down. And so, the whole saying goes that when the sword falls, the head will roll, which is what eventually happened to Medusa in the end. Now, another way that you can look at this is that many women, simply because of their looks or their talents, or in many cases their intelligence, are looked at as a threat to another woman, perhaps a boss in a corporate situation who is working through the archetype of Athena and sees that woman who's not doing anything wrong. She's just trying to do her job. But the boss in the archetype of Athena sees her as a threat and exiles her, does everything that she can to bring her down. And other people, like sheep, follow her into that judgment, and she ends up becoming exiled. So, either way, there is a lot of pain that comes when a woman feels she has been wronged, if she doesn't know how to process the injustice and work on an intelligent spiritual level to make people see her side of everything and begin to restore her name and her reputation, she will often resort to the lower way of doing things. And this is known as victimhood. So, when we want to heal at a soul level, we have to see where the pain began. And it doesn't mean that you dwell on it, doesn't mean that you have to spend years and years in group therapy hashing it over. All it means is that at a soul level, you go back to a time when you were happy and normal, and the door was opened to pain. And how that pain transformed you. It can have a physical effect. And I talk about this in the section in my book of how I saw Medusa transform into a gorgon, and how painful I felt the process was when she was doing so. And for myself, when I went through my suffering, it was very painful. And there are things that can manifest on a physical level. You can become so distraught to where you are so enmeshed in what has been done to you, whether you created the scenario yourself through behavior that was harmful to another person, and it caused a lot of backlash because you were going to go out and get what you wanted if it hair, lip, tail, and you harmed a lot of other people. Well, when that harm came back on yourself, you suffered. Same thing as with an injustice. Because emotional pain and suffering, that will have a dire effect on your physical body. You can begin to neglect yourself through the anger and the resentment and the bitterness, because when that takes control, it consumes you, and it doesn't leave room for any other kind of thought. So you can't possibly bring in creativity, joy, peace, love, and an abundance of positive socialization with great people because you are in that exiled tomb, for lack of a better word, that is filled with your rage and your anger and bitterness, where you are lashing out at others and they are retaliating. Because it gets to the point that even if you are the victim, the people that you lash out at that are completely innocent haven't a clue as to what you have gone through that made you so ugly and nasty. So when you are in the thralls of transforming, that pain can actually manifest as accidents. It can manifest as aches and pains in the physical body. You might begin to walk more hunched over because you are developing back pain, because you are setting instead of being more active, and you are not focusing on clearing the fear in the chakras that play a role in raising the Kundalini to its highest level. There are many things that can be reversed once you understand how you got in the position that you are in. And this is the message, the gift that Medusa brings you when you overcome your fear of addressing this divine archetype. I wish you great love and many blessings on your journey.